And a good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, General Manager, WEIU. Filling in for Michelle today, Rob Calhoun.
Well, thanks for having me, Jeff. And if I'm on, you know what we're talking about. We're talking sports.
Yeah, we're talking sports. Our guest, Marty Simmons. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great.
Well, we appreciate EIU men's basketball coach Marty Simmons being here, and we're hoping still that Matt Ballant will show up. But since you're the voice of the Lady Panther, or not, I can't call them Lady Panthers, the Panthers women's basketball team, you can at least give us some insight.
I can do what I can.
And you were at practice last week, so then you got that. So we'll start with you, Coach Simmons. Basketball season's here. We're a week away from your first game. Do the juices just start feeling different right now?
Absolutely. We're excited. Our guys are working extremely hard. We like our guys. They're getting better. It's a new group. Got 8 new players, 5 returning guys. We were able to get them here in the summer for 8 weeks. Do some skill work and team bonding things. And, we're not perfect, but they bring a good attitude to practice every day, and we're excited about the start.
You say you're practicing early in the morning. That's a change, right?
It is. With volleyball, they usually go from 2, maybe 3 to 6, and Matt's been a little different this time, and we just felt like to get the Lance, we probably needed to try something. So we're thankful to Cindy and the academic staff for being able to make that happen. It's actually been a good thing. Our guys have come in. I thought maybe they'd be sleepwalking, but they really haven't. They've had a good attitude with it. Hopefully in the second semester we can be a little more traditional and maybe go a little early afternoon, but it's been good.
There you go. Now, Robbie, you were at the women's practice last week. What did you see, and what can you talk about Mr. Ballant's team?
Well, it looks like it's going to be a pretty good season for the team. They have a couple of returning starters. They have some experience. They also picked up a couple of players from the transfer portal that I think are going to help them, and another junior college player that is going to help them as well. I don't think that they're going to miss a beat. And I told this to Coach Ballant the other day. I said, I think you're better than last year, and he agreed with me.
There you go. Coach Simmons, do you even pay attention, or look at any preseason polls, the preseason all-conference teams and rankings and all that stuff? Does it mean anything to you?
Only the ones that you have to. Obviously I was at the meetings and media day over there, but that's hard, especially with the portal and how many people leaving and so on and so forth. Not really.
Who, when you look at this year's men's team, can you talk about who you expect to step up to be your team leaders? I'm not even talking about your best players, your team leaders on the EIU Panthers.
That's a real challenge for us, to be honest. I think Dan Lewis, kid that was a walk-on that ended up starting and playing a lot in the second half of the semester. He's vocal. He understands how to play. Some of our new guys are older guys, and even though they just got here, we want them to. Paul Bizamana's a returning guy that we'd like to see share some of that. It's going to be more by committee. Caleb Donaldson's a new player. Yakima Rose, the older guys.
He's a local kid, right?
Yeah. And Rodolfo, just kind of by committee. We really don't have that one guy that just, is really vocal. I think like Kenyon Hodges, he comes and practices hard every day. Like, he brings it every day, and that's a sign of leadership. We'd like to see some of these guys be a little more vocal.
You think they will, since they're all getting to know each other and getting to know you in the system, that one will step up or two will step up?
I hope. A lot of times it's their personalities. We just don't have any what I call hard rockers, that really get in the locker room and fire guys up. And I think we are developing an understanding of how to hold each other accountable, and the expectations that we have for each other. And I with the newness, again, I said this last year, but I really believe it. I think we have a chance to really continue to improve, and I think this team has a chance to be really good.
Did you dive into the transfer portal this last year, and how does that portal actually work?
Well, it's an everyday thing. You got to jump in there. You can find guys and their contacts and all that. You really got to do your research. We got bit by it a little bit last year, to be honest with you. And the 2 kids that we got from the portal this year are Division II kids. Yakima Rose from down at Missouri St. Louis. He was an all-conference player down there. He's from Springfield. Lanphier. He's had a great high school career, played junior college at Parkland. So we've done our due diligence. And then Caleb Donaldson kid that played his high school senior year up in Bloomington, but he's from Rockford, was up at St. Cloud, and he's a glue guy. Like, he can play. He probably not going to play the 5, but he can play any of the 4 positions, and he brings a great knowledge, and he's been really good for us up to this point.
One of the things you just said interests me. As you talk a lot about basketball and you hear a lot about basketball, positions are something that are becoming more not what we traditionally grew up with 2 guards forward to center. It is. That 1 through 4 can almost be anything, and you might have 1 big. But talk about how the evolution of basketball has changed like that.
And I think a lot of people would give the credit to the European, play and just the style of play, and that's something we were working on a little bit today. We want to play with pace. Whether it's a made basket or a missed basket. That doesn't mean we're going to fire. Some teams want to get down there and shoot it within 7 seconds. Yeah, if we're open and it's a good shot, yeah. But just the ability to get in to whatever offense you're running, get into it, not walk it up and be stationary. Because I think our depth is something that could be a strength for us. We played a lot of guys in the 2 scrimmages that we've played, and there's going to be a lot of competition. But I would give credit to the European. A lot of the 5 out now. A lot of teams don't have a traditional post. Now we're a little different with that. I think Hamlin, Hamlin and Thomas and Ellington, they give us pretty traditional 5-post players.
Let's switch over to Rob for a while. Talk a little bit about the women's team. Who do you think Coach Ballant will have step up to be the team leaders as we head into this season?
It would be your seniors. That would be Lariah Washington. She was named the OVC preseason Player of the Year, and Morgan Litweiler as well. She's also a senior. All OVC selection for the preseason as well. Those are going to be your 2 players who are going to have to step up and show the younger kids how they do it there at the Division I level. You've got a couple of guards, Julia Bingson and Maya Monahan from Minnesota. They're sophomores this year, probably going to be getting starting nods as well. They saw a lot of time last year as freshmen, so those 4 will be your starting for the starting 5 probably. Then the battle becomes who's going to replace Abby Wall in that center position, and they have a couple of good transfers in Macy McGlone and also Hannah Purcell. But the bigs, they've had trouble with injuries so far this preseason. 4 of their 5 bigs have been out.
There you go. Are you have any injuries right now? Are you guys pretty healthy so far?
Knock on wood. We got Nick. Yeah, Nick Ellington was back today. He's been out for a little over a week with a sprained ankle, but we had a full roster here today.
Now, I was looking at your preseason schedule, Coach. Wow, you're going for it this year, right? You got 3 Big Ten teams on that schedule, and Central Michigan, and is it Ball State too?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So talk about that preseason schedule or your non-conference schedule, for lack of a better way, and what was your thought process when you go into that?
Coach Novak deserves all the credit for that.
Rob said you're going to blame him.
Yeah, he does a great job, and it is what it is. I mean, you get a chance to play some of the best teams in the country on their floors. And, I talked to my college coach, Jim Cruz, when he was out at Army, and they had to do some of that. And really just the experience that these kids get, that'll be something they can tell their kids about, a long time ago. You're going to Illinois, you go to Ohio State, you're playing Iowa. All 3 of those have been a part of the Big Ten championship. So it's a good barometer. And even the other team, Ball State, Northern Illinois, Western Illinois, we got a chance. I don't know, someone said Illinois State's coming here for the first time maybe in 40 years. So, your non-conference as much as anything is really to try to prepare you for the conference season. Now, where I would say is, I think any coach would tell you, you'd like to have some success. You know what I mean? That, certainly helps the buy-in process. So we'll find out where we're at, but we're excited about the start.
Well, I think the one advantage of maybe playing a bigger schedule like that is it is more publicity for the program. When you're beating a junior college team or the Little Sisters of the Poor or whatever, you're not going to get on ESPN or you're not going to get the mentions in some of the big networks. But when you're playing 6, 7, 8 big name schools in your preseason, and it's good for EIU as well.
It is. I mean, that part, you're 1,000% correct. And, again, I think your players get juiced up for that as well.
Does it help in recruiting? Not to interrupt you.
I think so. I mean, we use it a lot.
Yeah.
I think kids want to play the high majors, the Power 5 schools. Again, the only negative, I think, is just confidence. What I mean? You're playing against bigger, longer, more athletic. So I think to have a nice mix. We've got some non-ones on the schedule where you can play. Hopefully, you can play a lot of people, and going in the locker room after a win is it feels good. You know what I mean? Now guys are buying in. They the things that we're trying to do both in offensively and defensively are working. So I've always said I think you got to have balance. You got to play some teams that are probably better than you, play a lot of teams that maybe are like you, and then hopefully play some teams that you're better than, and you can it gives you a real barometer of where you're at going into the league play.
There you go. And then the women, I know they're playing Minnesota is the one Big Ten schedule.
Yes, Minnesota, Milwaukee's on the schedule as well. Those are the two bigger schools that they are playing this year. I've been joking around that we have the exotic trip to Minnesota after last year's Hawaii trip.
I know Hawaii this year for Rob Calhoun.
No.
Sorry, buddy.
But it should be a good schedule. They're also going to be playing Chicago State. They have Bradley coming into Eastern
you
to
got
play.
Central Michigan as well, right?
Central.
Or not. Did I read that wrong?
Yeah, one of the Michigans.
Okay.
And also Western Illinois and Northern Illinois, two pretty good matchups. The Compass tournament's not in existence anymore because one of the teams that was involved in it opted out, but the other three teams agreed to play each other, and that would be Western Illinois, Northern Illinois, and of course the EIU.
So you didn't want to say Southern dropped out is what you're trying to be nice there?
I'm trying to be nice and politically correct here.
That's your job, not mine. It's issues and attitudes. We can have an issue, right? Let's talk about the Ohio Valley Conference, and I know you don't like to look ahead based on our conversation last year, but you obviously, as a coach, you have to know what's going on in the conference. When you look at the Ohio Valley this year, where does Eastern fit in, and how do you get to that tournament? I mean, that's the goal, right?
Yeah, play good basketball. Pretty simple, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I think we got a great shot. I think we should be competitive most nights. I mean, I like our guys. I think. As the season goes on, we'll get more confidence, we'll grow, we'll get stronger, we'll get tougher. I mean, you don't have Belmont, Murray State, and Austin Peay. I mean, that certainly helps. I mean, not that the other teams aren't good teams, because they are, but if you look at the years past, those teams have dominated. So Moorhead's good. He's done a great job as a coach, and they've brought in some good players. Tennessee State has gotten some good transfers out of the portal. They got good guys returning. I think SIUE has a lot of good returning players. So I think the league, is going to be really good. I would expect there'll be a lot more parity in the league, and I would expect us to be right in there too.
And you've got the new teams coming in, Lindenwood, Little Rock, and Southern Indiana. What do they bring to the table?
Well, I think Southern Indiana has probably been a Division I team for many, many years. I mean, I said this a long time ago. They could come into our league and compete. So, and I think they will. Lindenwood, I have tons of respect for Kyle and his program. I think they'll step in. I think that's good basketball. I coached in that league when I was at SIU Edwardsville, and then Little Rock. I mean, I think they just won that Sun Belt League in 2020. So, Daryl's was a heck of a player, and he's done a terrific job down there. I think they bring a lot to the table. So you're going to miss maybe the luster. I mean, you can't take away what Murray and Belmont have done.
Oh yeah, they made national.
But guys like us. I mean, I think it gives us a better chance.
There you go. And the tournament will be in Evansville again. Right?
Yes, it will be.
Men's and women's.
Yes, top 8 seeds go to the tournament, or the top 8 teams out of the 10 teams. So, and that includes Lindenwood and Southern Indiana. Even though they're not eligible for the NCAA tournament, they're still eligible for the conference and tournament championships.
There you go. What about, I always ask this because, it seems like every year it evolves around a little bit. Are there new rules this year for college basketball that the Joe fan might not know about? I know.
Oh, just the flopping rule. Like it's I guess a Class B technical, one-shot technical. There's no warning and so on and so forth. I think that's the biggest thing that we just had the officials in here for an inter-squad scrimmage. I probably should have paid a little more closer attention.
Well, you can yell at them if you don't know, right? So, are you glad that the flops they're trying to take that away from basketball?
Oh, I guess. I mean, I think it's a hard one to call. I think got to be careful with it because I think it's going to where they want to get away from the charge. And not being a great athlete myself, it gave me a chance, and a lot of players. I think that's part of team defense, is being in the right positions and taking legal charges. I think the halo or the charge circle takes care of that, but I guess so.
There you go. Rob, let's talk a little bit about the women's first game or exhibition game in a game this week, and then we'll get to the Illinois game for Coach Simmons. So talk about this, what the women can expect this week.
Thursday is going to be an exhibition game, and they're going to be taking on Milliken. And then on Monday will be their first home game, their first game of the regular season against Missouri St. Louis. They're a Division II team, I do believe. So that means, and this is hard for me to explain to the layman fan, that the game will count for Eastern on their record, but the game will not count for Missouri St. Louis on their record because they're treating it as an exhibition game. And
who makes up these rules?
That happens. I mean, we've done that before in the past.
All right. So we get a win. So we
yes.
get a win.
Yeah, and then the next weekend there will be a little road trip, first going to Macomb to take on Western Illinois on the 14th, and then on the 16th be traveling to Valparaiso.
There you go. And, Coach, you open up a week from tonight at Illinois on national TV, 8 o'clock start. It won't be an easy one, but it's got to be fun. Right here in your backyard to play just 45 miles up the road.
Yeah, I mean, most kids from Illinois grew up wanting to have the opportunity to play. It wasn't the State Farm Center when I played. It was the Assembly Hall.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're playing against a great program. I mean, what Coach Underwood's done up there is terrific. They've been part of the Big Ten championship on both sides the last couple of years. He's got numerous guys going to the NBA and to the pros, and the atmosphere up there is as good as any in the country. So that part's exciting. Unfortunately, you got to play against, their players and him as a coach, and they do a lot of really good things.
But much like you, he's trying to put together a brand new team this year. He's only got a couple returners, so I mean there is that early. Maybe if you want to play him, you might want to play him now, right?
Yeah, and they'll be different. Obviously, not having Kofi.
Yeah.
I haven't watched a lot. Coach Novsek's had that scout, but man, they're athletic. They're big.
And unfortunately, we beat them last time, so I'm sure somebody's going to tell those guys that, right?
I hope not. I was talking to Coach Alexander, who's on the staff, I worked with, and then Brad was in the background, and we're not. Yeah, I wasn't part of that.
You had experience playing there in Champaign, winning a couple of straight state championships when you're at Lawrenceville. What kind of an atmosphere is it there?
The greatest ever. I mean, the greatest ever. I mean, I was so blessed to have that opportunity as a high school player. Back then, Class A drew more than Double A. And, I can remember Coach Felling telling us, you guys have a chance to do something. You'll be able to tell not only your kids, but your grandkids. I've got 3 grandkids now, and I'm wearing them out with it. So, like most kids, I grew up in Illinois. I mean, that's where you wanted to play. That's where the state tournament was. That's where the Fighting Illini played. And really, the refurbishing, the renovations are off the charts. I was able to go in there a couple of years ago. My son was in a camp up there. And it's always going to be the Assembly Hall. But I kudos to them for, they've really spruced that thing up, and it looks fantastic.
This week, do things go different in practice because it's game week? I mean, a week from today you play. So do you switch things up how you practice? Can you take us a little bit into the details?
Yeah, we scrimmaged Saturday and we're off yesterday. So basically today and tomorrow we're going to focus on us and a lot of the things that we saw that we need to improve on from that scrimmage. We'll be off on Wednesday. That gives us 4 days of prep for Illinois, and then we'll start getting into that. Then I'm not telling you that there aren't things that we're doing these 2 days that will factor in, but just really trying to get our players to understand, we come first. It's about us doing the things that we practice each and every day, and then we'll move into scout mode more on Thursday.
Because of COVID and the last couple of years, are things back to normal on the recruiting trail where you can get out there and do the things you like to do as a coach?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. It's like a lot of things in life. Unfortunately, you take things for granted. And then now that you're able to go back out and, the relationships, that's what coaching is a lot, not only with your own players and staff and boosters and alumni, but with, recruiting coaches, JUCO coaches, high school coaches. So, yeah, it's been fantastic.
Rob, I don't want you to put words in Coach Ballant's mouth, but, his team this year, when you talk to him on a little bit more regular basis than most people do, being the voice of the Panthers there, what is his thoughts going to this year in terms of goals and what he thinks that team can do?
Well, I think that their goal is to win the OVC. I think that that's a goal that they try to have every year. They're a little bit more athletic this year than they were last year. I think they're going to be a little bit more deeper this year. And like you talked with Coach Simmons, the OVC landscape has changed a lot. 3 out of the top 4 teams from last year have not returned because they have gone to different conferences, and that being Murray State, Belmont, and Austin Peay. So that's going to make the conference wide open. You still have your good teams, like you got a really good Tennessee Tech team. You can never, ever count out UT Martin. And also Tennessee State beat Eastern last year in the OVC tournament. You've got a good Little Rock team who's coming over from a strong conference who had a great year last year, but I do think they lost a lot of players to the transfer portal. I know those are words that coaches do not like hearing. It's transfer portal sometimes, but I think they have a chance to do something really special this year.
There you go. UT Martin featuring former WEIU intern Shay Littleford.
Yes.
We always forget that part.
And she's also a preseason first team all OVC selection.
There you go. We always got to make sure we give Shay her props there. Coach, speaking of the portal, I wanted to ask you not just how you use it, because I think everybody knows now if a kid doesn't want to be somewhere, they get in it. But is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Or what's Coach Marty Simmons' thought process on that?
We talked on this last year.
Yeah,
I'm not going to give you I like the old rules. You know what I mean? I was a transfer. I left Indiana. I had to sit for a year. It helped me get closer to my master's degree. I was able to get my master's eventually. It makes you think it through. You know what I mean? And you'll hear a lot of coaches. I mean, a lot of times just the grind. That was my grind, sitting out not being able to play for a year. Some is just sitting tight and grinding through and trying to get better. There's certain circumstances that I think, coaching changes, things like that. But, it's here, and it's probably going to stay, and we just have to do our best.
Speaking of grinders, can you tell one or two of your players who just from last year to this year that you've seen they've just put in the work when you're not around or the coaching staff's not around, that on their own they're ready for this basketball season?
Yeah, I think Lures is one. Like he's really bought in. I think Paul Bizamana is another. I really think all the returning guys. I met with them once or twice a week in the spring to just give them some input. You know what I mean? Let them have some things that they wanted to do in the spring. And give them some ownership of the team. And I think they've been really committed to the weight training. I think they've been committed to trying to help the new guys come in. Our culture is not where Matt's is. I mean, Matt's is off the charts. But we're getting closer. We're getting better. We've got a lot of great kids. Guys are going to class. Guys are showing up on time. They're there early for practice. They're staying late for practice. They're doing the things that it takes to be successful. And as long as we stay the course, good things are going to happen.
There you go.
Something we've talked about at the local drinking establishment, and you've seen us up there several times, is that let's say you have a freshman that comes in. He averages 15, 18 points a game. With the transfer portal and the NIL opportunities, do you feel that you could possibly lose him because of that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've never been through this. I had some kids down at Evansville that were really good players that probably wouldn't have stayed with us. I think relationship, everybody's going to say that. But, I mean, if young kids know you really care about them, both on and off the floor, I think that's where it starts. Like, they really got to feel the love. They got to know that you care. I think, do they see themselves improving? Are they getting better because you're spending the time and effort to improve their games individually? Chances for postseason. Is your program moving in the right direction where you really feel like you got a chance? Because they all want to play on, the dance, playing the big dance. As far as the money and things like that, that's a tough one. You know what I mean? That's, that's a different. It's here to stay, I'm sure. But we just gotta do our very best from that standpoint.
Let's switch paces for a little bit. What about community activities? What did the kids do this summer, or they do to help kind of get not just the program visibility, but just to help out the community? What do they do?
Well, we just had Bryce Weiler. He's my buddy from down at Olney, who sat on our bench at Evansville. So we had he spearheaded it. Our players and staff. We had some disabled people come into Lance, and we set up 4 stations, and we just had a blast. I mean, if Smiles, could buy, was money, we'd be gazillionaires because everybody. And the thing that I like, all the people that we had at camp, they were great, but our players, I think they got as much or more out of it, than us. We went out last spring, I guess, in the 5 Mile House on the outskirts of Charleston here. We went out there and cleaned it up and did some yard work and so on and so forth. So I think that's an important thing. I think your ability to give back to the community and use your platform to help other people is not only the right thing to do, but I think as people and as young people, it really benefits us.
And there's some team bonding.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I'm sure the women's team does that as well, Rob?
Yes, they have the care game where they raise money for Sarah Bush cancer patients. They've gone and played bingo with some elderly people, and they're always out in the community too. One thing I did want to ask you about, though, November 21st, you're playing at noon. Is that a Kids' Day game?
It is.
Okay, what will that mean to the players to have a bunch of screaming kids in there yelling for them?
They've never had that before, so it'll be different. We played in one of those at Evansville, and you can't emulate that. I mean, like, I went to the women's game; they had done it for us. It's nonstop. I mean, the timeouts. It just screaming, yelling. I think it'll be fantastic. I mean, we're so excited to have the opportunity to do that. Again, I said it when you guys hired me. I mean, we want our players to be ambassadors for Eastern Illinois University. We want them to be role models for the young kids in this community. I had a role model when I was growing up. I don't know, maybe you did too. I had more than one, and I still believe in that you can pick 1 or 2 or 3 people and try to emulate the way they behave and the way they act, and that's what we want from our players.
We're talking to Coach Marty Simmons, EIU men's basketball coach. They start a week from today. Shameless plug, all games right here on HitMix 88.9 WEIU. Coach Simmons, we always like to ask some odd questions at the end just to have some fun. Favorite sports movie?
Remember the Titans.
Favorite active pro basketball player? The key word being active.
Luka Doncic.
Ooh, that's a good one there. The worst Halloween candy is?
Black licorice.
The best Halloween candy?
Reese's.
World Series, are you rooting for the Astros or the Phillies, or do you care?
Phillies.
How many EIU shirts do you own?
30.
30. All right. We had Amber Mander there today. She had like 220. Is there a TV show each week that you cannot miss? It's must-see TV for
I can't think of the name of it. It's with Tom Selleck. He's the...
Blue Bloods.
Blue Bloods,
That's it.
I love that show.
I do too.
Now, I was going to ask you this with Coach Blount, but he's not here. Who wins a free throw contest between you two?
I'd say Coach Blount.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought you'd go for you. So, hey, it's great seeing you again, sir. Best of luck this year. And just go out there and represent EIU and get some wins for us, all right?
Thank you very much.
That's Coach Marty Simmons. Rob, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We are HitMix 88.9 WEIU.